Well, hey kids, welcome back. Got the hood up on the little Firenza here once again. Reason being, I had a front cover leak, timing chain cover leak in this that I needed to address, and decided I didn't want to mess with the old style or stock style front cover anymore and get one of those fancy two-piece front covers, which I always wanted for other small block Chevys that I had, because it's just such a hassle to deal with dropping the pan down if you got to just take that off. So I got one, and in the process of removing the old one, I noticed something that was kind of a problem. These cars, the V8 cars, have a special oil pan. It has a notch, I guess, kind of a flat spot put into it to clear the steering linkage that's running really close, right in between the K-member on this that's removable and the oil pan itself. The engine sets down pretty low, and oil pan subsequently gets bashed up on guys that are got a lowered car too. But that's beside the point. This was a stock pan. I'm not sure why they didn't use the 305 pan that was in there. Maybe kicked a rod through the side or something and they didn't want to try to repair it. Don't know, don't care. The good news is you can buy new ones, but I thought I had seen somewhere where you could modify one of these if you wanted to, and just kind of add your own little notch out of there. So we're going to do that. I actually found out a great source. A fellow named Bob Gumbs got some good information on his website. I'll put a link in the description for this video of where I got my information, that he shared the information. So good resource if you got an H body, Monza, Starfire, Sunbird, Skyhawk, sorry, Buick guys. The same thing's going to apply if you got a V8 in their small block Chevy at least. So we'll check it out here in a little bit, and you can get, like I said, you can get the aftermarket ones, and the stock ones, they're probably still floating around out there, new old stock ones, but none of that matters. If you want to tag along here for the ride and see what's going on, it comes out pretty good at the end, I'll tell you that, spoiler alert. But let's get her done. All right, here's what we're starting with. Unfortunately, like a lot of projects that you get on old cars, you got to fix it before you can fix it. Looks like the PO tried to clearance it in here, which definitely missed the mark. It needs to be about in that region. It just wailed on it with a hammer or something, to the point of, I think they actually cracked through. I can't tell or not, but this is like razor sharp right here, where they bashed it folded it over, which is crazy because it needs to be like a symmetrical clearance area, and they didn't really do anything on this side. So I don't know if they lost interest or didn't understand what was going on, but this is pretty much useless. I mean, the center link, drag link was pinned up against the pan right here, and as we talked about earlier, and we're going to talk about later, the modification needs to be basically like a you see down here where it's kind of got a rise on here. We're going to take that out. So somewhere in this area, it's going to come straight down and straight out. Level with the pan rail, just to give it some clearance. On the other side of this are your main bearing caps for the crankshaft. So you can't, just go crazy and cut it away. That's why we have that drawing with the dimensions. And, of course, we'll check it out. Like I said earlier, or, I'm mentioning now, the dipstick location doesn't really matter too much on this. There's a special pan that is like a big block Chevy that has a dipstick kind of going in the other side, coming out. We don't need to do that. We got like a low car style dipstick that somebody put on here. And the aftermarket pans, which we can buy, they don't They don't have that either, because I think they're assuming that you're going to run, headers or some type or non-stock, manifolds, which would require that dipstick provision. We don't need any of that. So again, could I buy one? Sure, but it's a couple $100 I can spend on something else. So we're gonna make one, but I gotta bash this back out. Probably get all the hammers and dollies out to do that. Maybe even the planching hammer. I don't know. But we got to pull it back out. It's pretty thick. Maybe not the planching hammer, but we'll get it knocked back out, at least it's close enough, because it's a whole lot harder to twist that stuff around when it's just a loose edge. We don't have the metal. And if we straighten it back out after that point, then it's gonna stretch back up, and we'll just have to trim it again. So let's get it as close as we can to what the original shape is. Put it on the surface plate, cut it up, and we'll go from there. And I will say, I'm not sure. You can see there's some orange paint underneath there, which this engine wouldn't have been orange. And that's okay. Chevys are orange. But this is haze gray. Don't know why, but let's get underway. Okay, let's get stopping point, give you some progress here. If you recall, the last shot, this was all bashed in. I didn't get it all out. It's just so creased in here. In fact, back here, it's roll it around a little bit. It's actually folded over. If you remember that or not. But that's coming out. But the point, as I said, is to try to get it as close to the original contour as it was. It kind of saves you a little bit of sorry about the bouncy camera work. Saves you a little bit of straightening after the fact when you got a free edge, and that's not as easy to do when it's all one piece like this. Get after it and try to straighten it out. Like I said, this was the bad side. Let me show you the other side too, because I already started cutting a little bit. But let's talk about how I got to this point here. It's boring to film, and there's a lot of other resources out there to show you sheet metal forming that there's no reason to repeat it. But basically this is like 16 gauge steel, so it's fairly heavy. It's not typically something you'd have on a car, so I wouldn't get your body hammers after it, because you can break them. But also, you don't want to go wailing on it like John Henry or something, because you'll just make it worse. So I kind of did a little of both, and I used a whole bunch of stuff here, and we can look at the pile of stuff that I had here. It looks like a bunch of garbage, but it's not. I did use a big ball peen hammer, which I don't have here. You did use some of my dollies, actually, to kind of back it up. And a good old baseball bat that I have laying around here, because I'm going to make another metal shaping hammer. That's definitely a caveman trick. Find that out there if you poke around on the YouTube and see what's going on. Pretty good. These things are $30-$40, and if you catch one, they're a couple dollars at your thrift store. So I usually grab those if I can. It's just the end of the same bat I kind of used. Different shapes to kind of get down in the hole there. Now I didn't use all these on the area that we repaired for the H-body notch, but I was also repairing the area around the drain plug. So yeah, I saved this copper from when I replaced my water heater, just because I was going to smash it up to use it to back up plugging holes and welding. But it's also pretty good to use to kind of drive on something, because I didn't want to drive hammer on steel here, although I did have to get after it with this chisel and with this just totally trashed old extension that I had since I was like 15. That's pretty good for just kind of kabong and stuff, and even this little bolt here too. The thing is, when you use something really hard like that on there, you're gonna stretch it if you're not careful. Definitely with the chisel. It's meant to cut, so you got to be real careful on that. I was just kind of tapping it in there, and so you can. Easy does it with all this stuff, but definitely the softer things require a different kind of aggressiveness than the harder pieces. I mean, then these are the finishing touch, last resort kind of things that I couldn't get in there. But in conjunction with that, with these things that I got piled up over here, I also used, thank you, Jerry Kirkpatrick. This is kind of a poor man's panel beating bag here. It's just an old, I don't know what this was, like a women's, I think it might have been like a diaper bag, actually. It's nothing fancy. I mean, this was like $2. My students actually knocked some holes in it, pounded some stuff out. It's just a canvas bag. It's got a bag of playground sand inside a heavy-duty trash bag, zipped around this stuff here. I mean, yes, you can buy these things, but go check the price. They're real expensive. I got about, I don't know, whatever a bag of sand costs. I mean, it's a couple bucks. I think this was a couple bucks. Yeah, they kind of messed it up, but this has lasted for years and years. And you can just go get another one, and sometimes you can find one that's, at least pleather, that gives you a pretty good surface, and it works really good. I mean, get you a couple different ones, put some sand in one, put some shot in another. It's going to give you a different kind of support on the back. That's all I wanted to do when I was hitting on that pan, was to give it something to push against, so I just wasn't going out into space and stretching it further. So definitely thank you, Jerry Kirkpatrick. If you don't subscribe to his channel, check it out. Definitely got a lot of cool meta shaping tricks here that I'm not going to go into here, because there's other better information out there. And the goal of this video is to make that oil pan modification. So let's get back to that. That was the really, really bad side. And then there's still some dents in here. Some of that stuff's going to get cut away. I did grind it down while it's all one piece. A little bit easier to hang on to. See, I started cutting not quite half out of the section that we're going to replace, basically flatten out. You can see some random lines in there. I'll explain what's going on there. Look inside here. Yeah, you can see how watered up it was on that side that I fixed. There's a paint pan mark on there that was kind of the remnant. What if I was trying to figure out how to set that distance, and one set off the top of the pan rail, one set off the bottom. They end up being the same distance, basically to the end. I mean, more or less what we're doing, if you can kind of see here, kind of just taking that little hump out. There's a tiny bit of it left here where I stopped cutting it. But what I did was marked it on the inside, just with combination square, how far down I wanted to go, and then I could cut a straight line. See that or not? Let's turn it there. Yeah, you can get fairly straight before it starts turning a little bit, and there's some twisted up metal there. Here's the line. This is basically what it looked like. Has a drip there, but I could get about this far, and so I cut across it with the Dremel tool with a cutoff wheel. So then on the outside, I had, a good hole to see where to go, and I lined up a torpedo level. Didn't really need the level. I just needed something that was pretty flat and straight, and set it on here. Definitely one-hand tricks here, folks. Set it on here against my Dremel cut line that I had made. If that makes sense. I set it up there like that, and I clamped it to the side of the pan with a welding clamp, and then drew lines. There's that one back there right underneath my thumb, and then kind of out here, just to kind of get it as straight as I could. And I used this edge of this here as a guide for my body saw that I have somewhere around here. Body saw loaded with busted up hacksaw blades. That's a tools and tips video that I done a while back. You can check that one out. But more or less power hacksaw, really. Cut across there about as far as I could, and it was a nice guide to keep it pretty straight. I am kind of high on here on purpose, because I want to kind of file and grind it in there. and it, even when it's straight, it looks wobbly because you're going, remember that pan shape, it's kind of like going in and out. It's tapering and it's going up and down. It was tough. Probably the more I think about it, probably the better way I'd come up with trying to lay it out. I tried a bunch of different things, but that seemed to do pretty good. But I didn't want to cut the whole thing out because I wanted to show you, what I'm doing here, doing the next side, and then, we'll probably go back and, cut out a little bit more. And I think where we're going to end up with is it's almost going to be like a big radius right here. You see the spot welds where the oil pan baffle was in here, which I have cut away. I cut that away primarily. I knew it was going to go away because of the step we're building in here to clear the K-member. But I needed access to knock the backside of this big dent that's in there. You see it's all looks like watered up aluminum foil in there to try to get that shape straighter, like I was saying, so we could get a smoother cut. I was thinking, hey, this is nice and flat. Maybe we can use this as kind of a register to figure out where it is. Well, it's not in there level. It's in there pretty crooked if you measure off the top, which, who cares? This is mass-produced part. It's just meant to keep the oil from, like, sloshing back and forth in there. So we're going to obviously integrate that in there, and we'll make it to where the oil can get underneath the front of that, too, to where we don't have, like a trapped area up in the front to where oil pulls all up in, because there's another wall behind here in front of where the sump starts, or the lower part of the pan. I kind of want to keep it open. That's why they just spot welded it, and they put some holes in there so the oil can kind of get around, but it definitely slows it down a little bit. And that's what these two pieces are here, or two marks are here. That's where it was spot welded on the front. But yeah, that's where we're at. Got a little more cutting to do. Want to fold that our patch panel up, get it fit in there. I mean, that's the key. You can what do they say? If you can jump over it, you can weld it or something like that. I'd rather not do that. I'm going to end up MIG welding this together only because I'm out of argon on my TIG welder. But that would be the preferred way I'd want to do it. But that's fine, and that's what probably most people have if they got a welder at all. Is a MIG welder, but it doesn't really. The process doesn't really matter. This is not a pressure vessel or anything. I mean, it's just got it's just a bucket more or less. It's got to keep the oil in there. But we'll get that patch made. We'll get it kind of tack welded in place, seal it up, keep going. The welding part is going to be the easiest. It's just like painting. It's all the prep. Get all the fit up is what we're going to want to do here. Get it fit up as tight as we can, as nice as we can, and it's just going to make our lives easier when we go cutting it in, welding it in, burning it in, making it look cool. Depending on how well this turns out, which this isn't a show car by any means. We're not working on a Duesenberg here. This is an experiment. Like I said, I could have bought one of these if I wanted, but if it comes out nice, we'll maybe go back and kind of work on some of these things that I just kind of, swiped at here. There's some dents in here where it's got kabonged, and you can see some scrapes and stuff. Maybe we'll get those out and really slick it up nice. Who knows? But it's going to work, so stick with it. We'll be back in a second. Okay, well, we got the opening cut up to where I'm happy with it. I struggled trying to get this, level and at the right height or depth or whichever way you're going to look at it. And I couldn't figure out why these lines, as you can see, it's really not symmetrical until I realized there's a couple things going on here. One is this thing was bashed up, as we saw in the beginning, quite a bit. Kind of see down there too where I was talking about where the baffle is not welded in there level with the bottom of the pan, but the whole thing is not symmetrical, and I just that's usually the way things are done in engineering. It's just easier to kind of mirror the left to the right unless there's a reason not to. In the world of art, that is what you try not to do. You try to make it interesting, so experience from left to right may be different, but I mean, it's cost and time, and so you try to make things sort of a mirror image. Well, right away, I mean, there's a dipstick kick out on here. There's a drain plug on the other side. So this back half, I just thought, well, that's not symmetrical. That's asymmetrical. But the front is going to be. Well, when you look at it, you start studying a little bit, and it's just kind of a free-form shape, really, which makes it much harder to make a kind of a real geometric modification to this. And so after I checked and checked and checked, I mean, I made even a little scribe tool to set off of my surface plate that I have here to kind of gauge it, to mark it. And I'm like, man, I'm right. I got it cut right. You can see, I've got die-chem on the inside here where I marked it. I've got, paint pen across the top. Regardless, I got it cut. It's the right level, and it's the right shape, even though this one kind of has, more of a kind of almost an arc to it, where this one is really a straight line. But the bottom line is, all that you need to have done is that this is a plane across here. So don't, just go crazy and start hacking this stuff up, because you're just going to work that much harder making the patch to fit, and you get frustrated and throw it away. But this is straight. Now, the thing that I do want to mention here, on the front here, there's still a tiny bit of a, I guess really what you call it would be a crown, if you're talking about body panels. So, I mean, it's really low, and it just came up a tiny bit of a rise in the middle, and it faded off into nothing, to where out on the end here, these were almost flat. Well, I did take my body hammers and kind of flatten that out, to a point to where I stopped when I felt like I was stretching the metal, because my patch, if I gotta stretch that a little bit, they can kind of come to meet each other in the middle, so to speak. I'm not asking it to do a whole lot. I don't need this to go a whole lot, and I don't need the patch to go a whole lot. But if I left it where it was, I've got kind of a rounded shape and a flat shape, and then I've got a decision to make. How do I fit those up? And I don't want to make a big old booger weld or something here and grind that off. I mean, it would work. I mean, this, as we've talked about, is not a pressure vessel for sure. It's really just a cover. I mean, we could braze this together. I mean, heck, you could glue it and fiberglass it or something. I mean, for all intents and purposes, I mean, look at plastic gas tanks. They work fine. We could stick this thing together and it would work, but I don't want to do that. I want to make it, as rigid as we can, even though it's not a stressed member of the engine. But, let's try to make it look, professional. If you notice, we got the patch cut here. Still not symmetrical for sure, but it fits up pretty nice. We use metal from the Flare project, if you want to check that out, for the same car, for the Firenza. I had some left over. It was the right gauge. And trying to do this one-handed. It does fit up pretty good. I did a couple things here. As you can see here, this has kind of got a little bit of a bow in the pan, and of course this is pretty much flat right here. I did kind of leave it a little big because I want to kind of grind into it. In this corner, it kind of turns in a little bit more, so that overhangs a little bit. I may trim that up before I start welding it. But definitely in the back here, I did leave this just a shade high, because we're going to MIG weld this, and that weld needs somewhere to go. I mean, they're usually kind of big and bulky. I could have this butt up flush welded across there, and of course, try to make it look nice. You grind it off. Now you've cut away your weld. What I prefer to do, and what we're going to do on 90% of this, is we're going to weld it on both sides. And that's something that I kind of learned from a lot of people, but one guy that does it really well that I mentioned before on the channel is Fitzy's Fabrication. Again, never met the man, but he's got a pretty good plan for doing these kinds of patches, at least on body work. And this is really more body work than it is kind of fab work, because like I said, it's not a pressure vessel or anything. It's not structural. But he basically welded it on the inside and the outside, and then he'll grind the outside because he knows on the backside he's got plenty of coverage in there, and you can make a really nice fillet, make it look good. And that's kind of what I want to do. Well, I can't do that here, and the reason being is we got this this baffle in here. If it's not working out, I'll remove this and weld it back in, because I don't want to eliminate it. But I can't weld up in over the top here. So what I did is I left this kind of high up here to where I can kind of leave that weld in here, and I'll kind of basically sculpt the top of this with the grinder. And if I don't feel like it's good enough, then we'll do something else. But on the everywhere else, all the way around the perimeter here, we're going to weld it on both sides. And this is thin enough with the MIG welder, at least for me. I'm going to have to skip weld this, and that I mean, I'm going to be jumping around, spacing my welds out, and then going back and filling in the gaps, to let things cool down. We may air quench this a little bit. I don't want to get it so hot. I mean, it's so far away from the mounting surface. I don't think that's going to happen, but hey, why take the risk? I mean, we got this far. There's no reason to race and rush it to the end. Let's get it done right. But I probably am going to have to do a little bit of hammer work as I weld this in here, because I'll hit the middle here, and then kind of start pushing them together. Like I said, bringing them to meet in the middle. Flattening the pan out a little bit and crowning this a tiny bit. So you have this very slight kind of almost dome shape in here that'll probably kind of echo around into that too. You'll if I do it right, you'll never really see it, but we'll get it tacked in there, weld it up. It's going to be a lot of welding and grinding, and to try to get it fit really, really good, which is the whole point of it, right? But it's a crazy edge. I mean, you can see where there's dimples, where the spot welds of the baffle were in there. Like I said, the pan's not straight, but all in all, I think it's pretty good. Flip it over and kind of see what I mean before we get started here. Get a big, nice, happy kind of mouth shape in there. Some old spot welds that I broke off of the front end of that baffle. I mean, kind of grind those up here just for posterity, but we're ready to start welding, folks. All right, well, there you go. Got the patch welded in. Not terribly awful, but fits pretty good. So we'll leak test this thing and probably throw a coat of paint on it. Well, there it is. Don't look half bad. It, still got, grinder marks and some scratches and dings and dents and stuff that were in there before. And maybe I could have filed some of the high spots down a little bit better here and there. But that's not the point. You can do it any way you want, and you can do it much better. The point was to show you that if you wanted to modify your stock pan, that you can. Not really too pretty on the inside there. Did weld it up. The inside's got flash rust on there from my leak test that we'll clean out of it. But did exactly what I said. Kind of welded on both sides as much as I could, and then made this side kind of the show side. The funny thing is, you're not going to be able to see any of this. This notch is here for the K-member to clear, and the K-member goes around it, and then the tie rod, drag link, center link goes pretty much in this little pocket that's created in between the K-member and the steering linkage itself. So, all the part that I made, which is, arguably probably one of the smoother sections of it, that's going to be all covered up. And unless I'm, got it greasy side up, or, it's up on a rack, you're never really going to see it anyway. It's pretty hidden well down in there. But, I think it looks pretty good. good enough for what we're doing. I'm probably not going to have this in particular engine in there forever anyway. If I execute my mad plans with how I want to repower that thing, we'll see. I got all kinds of crazy ideas from getting a Gen 2, Oldsmobile V8 in there, to maybe a North Star Aurora V8, something like that, or even maybe a Quad 4. Yeah, and tell me in the comments why all that makes no sense and it's a bad idea. I love it, but hey, it's my car, and we're gonna dare to be different with it. You may be asking yourself, gold? What's going on there? You started out with haze gray, and now you got gold. Well, as I was grinding away stuff, I noticed that gray started coming off, and there's Chevy orange, and I'm like, okay, well, it probably wasn't. It shouldn't have been Chevy orange anyway from the factory. And then under that was the right blue that should have had on it anywhere from those years, but which I don't care for. I would have painted it orange too, but hey, this is an Oldsmobile, at least the car is, and I know it's not an Oldsmobile engine, but hey, it's mine. That's kind of a traditional color for Olds, at least that's what you think of. I think is kind of like, yeah, Chevys were a lot of colors too, but people think of orange, and pretty much when I think Oldsmobile, I think of the gold. Looks pretty cool. So there it is. I painted it gold, and yeah, no, it's not the right gold for Olds engine. It's the gold that I like because, once again, dare to be different. So, everybody, thanks for watching, and see if you can do this to your own if you so choose. It wasn't really that difficult, and you can take it as far as you want. You can tack that thing on there and let it rip, or you can take it to the next finish level way beyond what I did here. Either way, it's another option for you. Well, there's another one in the can. I hope you got something out of that. Doesn't have to be for this kind of car. If you're, whatever it is, it's the same idea. Like I said, it's not a pressure vessel, so you obviously don't want it to leak, but it's not something that structurally that needs a lot of structure in the weld. It's just got to be sealed up, so you could brace it together if you were so inclined. If you're better at that, it's you're just making room for whatever's in the way. I mean, you just don't want to get in the way of the moving parts within the engine. So if you're smart, measure twice, cut once. Take your time, you can get it done. So again, thanks for watching. Appreciate all the attention that we've been getting lately. And like, subscribe, share. We love that stuff. Comment. Definitely love the feedback. A lot of people got their own projects, told me about them, and that's cool, man. That's why I'm into that, is for the people. You get the stories, you get tips, you get new ideas. So once again, we'll see you next time on Smith Motorworks. Later.